Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Is this working? Yeah, I think this is working. I think you should be able to hear me. Let's just turn Spotify off, and let's do a fancy box zoom. Hello everyone. Hello, welcome to the regular. Well, it's actually, so I'm just messing around with some of my windows here. It's second stream of the day, so we had a bit of video editing this morning, and then I popped off to watch the Queen's funeral. Now I have to get this out of the way really early on, so I don't get tearful. But do you know, there's one thing that we can do, And the one thing we can do is, you know, a real good pomp and circumstance parade and everything. It's been absolutely, I think if the Queen was still alive, I think she would be proud with what she saw today. It was absolutely unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. And it was so nice to see it as well, and to sort of like experience it. I don't know if anybody else managed to watch it, but I'm just joining. I'm just changing the ticker message because I'm not on Twitter at the moment. It was absolutely unbelievable. And do you want to know, I did get tearful at some moments because there was various things that sort of like really set it off for me. Because at one point she said, the commentator said, oh, this will be the last time that the Queen drives past Buckingham Palace. And I just, and then I got really freaked out that she was actually in the coffin. I thought, no, I don't want to know this. And then it showed the corgis. Oh, that was so sad as well. And when the coffin was lowered into the crypt at the end, oh my giddy aunt, I tell you, I was a wreck. I was a complete wreck. Hi to Matt and Medivac. Thank you for calling in. And I feel that I've got something caught in my moustache. But I was really impressed with the whole the whole event. It was really well put together. It was so precise. And I was talking to my sister. We were texting each other because we were both watching it, but she was watching it with my mom at their house and I was at here, and we were just texting back and forwards over WhatsApp, and we were sort of like elevator. Well, there was one point that I was disappointed because the head of the garter, or what the head is meant to snap a rod and put it in, and King Charles, good grief, I just called him Prince, I'll be beheaded. King Charles put the flag over it, and then he was meant to, this head of the garter, the knight errant, was meant to break a rod and put it in, and both will be buried with the late Queen. And I expect it was a really thin staff, a rod, and I thought this is going to be brilliant. It's going to go snap. But then when he did snap, you could see that there was a little metal thing that obviously clicked in so it would easily snap off, which I was a bit disappointed about that. But apart from that, I just thought it was unbelievable. I thought the services were so really sort of like it sort of like tugged on your heartstrings. It was very moving, I thought, right the way through it. And I was talking to my sister via WhatsApp, and we were sort of like talking about what we have experienced in our lifetime, in the sense that we've had the death of the Queen Mother, death of the Queen's husband, the death of the Queen, the death of Princess Diana. That all happened. We had things like the Falklands War, which we were alive for. And we've had several jubilees, platinum jubilees, silver jubilees, gold jubilees with that. And we are actually going to have a coronation as well. So my mom has had that as well, of her generation, and we survived a pandemic. I mean, who would have ever thought, you know, that we would look back on our lives and be able to say, I actually survived that pandemic, you know? And I think it's when you start to look back across your life, then you really sort of like start to accept what's actually gone on. And I'm not a religious person at all, but I was really jealous and, well, envious of the people in the church that obviously have this huge, really deep-seated faith that they have. And I was quite envious of them, actually, that I didn't actually have that. And sometimes I actually try to think what it's going to be like when I die, and it gets me scared, because obviously this body won't be here, but I think the weird thing to me is that my mind won't be here either. So, but we're not going to talk about morbid things like that, but it's just how my brain works sometimes, you know, unless of course there is everlasting life, and then I hope I've been a good enough person to actually, you know, live through that and maybe go out. Or it might be something to do with reincarnation, and I might come back as a prince, you know, and then I don't know, I'm planning to live forever. Good. Now, what is it? Is it Conan with Arnold Schwarzenegger that they say, the woman says, do you want to live forever? Is it Conan the Barbarian? That one. I saw on a Twitter thing, does anybody remember the film Red Sonja? I don't know if you remember Red Sonja, but it sort of like has the prince. There's this little kid, and his sort of like servant always sticks up for him, but the prince is really obnoxious, and I think Red Sonja ends up spanking him or something like that, if I remember. But I actually saw Red Sonja on a Twitter and thought, oh, good grief, I haven't seen that for a long time. Yeah, definitely a quieter schedule. Definitely a quieter set. I felt really bad last night. I'm going to have to allocate something to a Sunday evening, because when it gets to the Sunday evening, because there's nothing allocated to that time, I just sit down and waste it. I literally do nothing or flit. So I'm going to have to really sort of like focus in on something and actually think, okay, then what am I actually going to do that day? So the other thing that I'm just going to move you over to another screen so I can monitor you, because I want to use my big screen here. The other thing that I would like to show you is, you know, I'm always trying to be successful on Instagram, and sometimes I think, hang on, I just need my iPad. Sometimes I think I should just stick with YouTube. I should just stick with YouTube. Let me let me just cube like that. Let's take this off. So this is my YouTube channel. This is the back end that, you know, you might be able to see. I think you can see, but I'm not too sure. So look, this is the video. Hang on, let me just go. Can you see it on that screen all right? Is that all right to see, or is it a bit too small? Anyway, let me know. This is the stream that I did this morning. Okay, 69 views. Okay, 69 views already. So this one, being a small content creator, so all this is, I don't know whether or not you can hear it. It just goes on about I don't think you're hearing it, but that video on YouTube has had 240 views. 240 views. Okay, the same video on the same reel on Instagram has had 2,000 views. Okay, so that one's way over it. Okay, so if we take another one, say this one here, reasons you should overload your to-do list. On YouTube, it's had 667 views. On Instagram, it's had 512. So YouTube is way above it. And things like some of these, I get so many more views on here than I do on Instagram. Okay, and I just sort of like think, what's the difference? What's actually the difference? And I think, I mean, I'm not going to stop doing one and do the other, but I'm just going to try to sort of like boost them up. I just refreshed it to see how it looks, but I was just amazed that this morning's video, when I was editing my my YouTube video, 69 views. You know, it's a huge amount. I wonder why you can't hear it. Let's see if we can add. I always end up doing this live on stream, and I shouldn't really. I should sort of like wait until it's. I know what we can do. See, this only has inputs, so I would have to. Oh, I know what I can do. We can do that, can't we? So if I just find this. Hang on, let me get it. I'm wondering whether or not I can just capture the audio from this as well, but automatically mix audio. So that's on, but it doesn't seem to want to mix the audio. What happens if I? No, it's not mixing the audio at all. Never mind. I will have a look at it. It should automatically mix the audio in, but for some unknown reason, it's not at all. Yeah, sorry about that. But it's really interesting. I think the difference between sometimes the difference between YouTube and Instagram. The other thing that I have to say at this point, and it's probably very narrow-minded of me. Of course, anything that I produce on YouTube, if people are watching it, they're watching the advert, so I'm getting some of that coinage, if that makes sense. I'm actually making some money from it. Well, of course, anything on Instagram, I'm not at all. The other thing that I wanted to show you just briefly is this top bar here. I don't know whether or not you can see it, but it says members goal here. And then it has my subs. And these are actually interactive. So when somebody joins the channel and I get a member, that bar will sort of like color in as I go along. And when I get to 2K subs, this will move up to this. And this is something that Stream Elements is doing on a platform called Mercury. And it actually allows you to put dynamic information or data onto your YouTube banner, but also in streams, on videos. So can you see this one here? The Harpies one. Whereabouts is it on the screen? This one here. Can you see that on these, if I hover over it, it just plays it. But can you see Mithras episode 4? This has got a dynamic overlay on it that tells me the number of views it's had so far. Isn't that amazing that it's actually picking that up and automatically putting it onto the screen for me? Let me just catch up with some of your chats here. Instagram have really sketchy ways of counting. Yeah, Well, I think they do, and I get very I don't understand it. I'm just going to I like adding sending comments to my page. There you go. That's what Matt's saying. Really sketchy ways of counting views, etc. So yeah, I think you're probably very correct there, and I think it's really I think it's really interesting how they do it, etc. But I'm just interested in the variation and the variation between social media platforms. And I think with the sort of like the demise of the Queen and everything, I do think it makes you consider your own mortality. I do think it does, and I've certainly sort of like reconsidered mine. But I always take faith, not religious faith, in a saying that somebody once said to me, and it was a colleague at work, and they heard it on a radio, and the saying went, "You only have two lives on this world. One is from birth to death, and the other one is the life you start living when you suddenly realize you only have one life." And I think that is so, so true. And it's sort of like I'm really engaging with it now and sort of like treasuring every single moment and remembering it and trying not to wish my life forward quicker by saying, oh, I can't wait to, oh, I can't wait to, oh, let's get rid of this, oh, 2 more days and I get there. And I'm sort of like thinking, somebody would be grateful for 2 days. And that's what I have to be. I have to sort of like look at every single moment of time as something that's extremely precious and to make something of. And I'm not meaning to be a football star or something like that, but to make it not to waste time. I think that's the thing that I really don't want to do. I don't want to waste time in my life. It's interesting. I'm up to day 14 of this 30 reel challenge, and the first time the first couple of days, I redid that video over and over and over again. And now I'm just like thinking, oh, I can't be bothered with this. I'm just sort of like producing reels that are not good. And there's a real issue. And apparently other Instagram users have it. And I have it too. Is that when I save an audio to use it, so I take the audio and I say use it. When I replay it, it misses out the first almost second worth of it. It's still on the finished reel, but you don't hear it. And so it's really difficult. So I'm just using that as an excuse that's why my reel production is really bad. But I do like short form video, even though it doesn't help at all towards my viewer count and things like that. The other thing that I wanted to show you, just in case you were with me this morning, before we start looking at a book for tonight's role-playing session, I just wanted to say that I've actually uploaded, the video that I was working on this morning. I have actually uploaded it now. So it's all here ready to go. But I thought I'd upload. Oh, I know where I can get it from. I actually managed to, this morning we hadn't done the thumbnail, but now I have done the thumbnail. So hang on, let me just switch this to ClickUp. If it's going to show, is it going to show? obviously doesn't like ClickUp, so we'll just go to this. Let me just don't comment about the tidiness or anything like that. So if I go into my monthly task, because that's the easiest way to do it. So this is the video that I was working on this morning, if you remember. And so I'm just going to go to the actual thing. So I've sort of like got almost, it's all being uploaded, but this was the final thumbnail. Hi Dav, how are you doing? It's lovely to see you. This was the final thumbnail that I created, which I really like. I thought it was brilliant. And there was so many funny bits in that video that well, there were so many bits that I was laughing out loud with. I don't think anybody else was, but I just thought there was some really funny bits. And I was also quite pleased that I had focused in on, rather than going out and buying something, a new thing, I actually persevered with what I've got. And actually worked on that. I'm just going to pin the Stay Positive mug to the top of the chat now. That should come up on your chats now. It's currently free shipping if you're interested. Anyway, we've got a new role-playing game to look at. And I'd just like to remind you that last week we looked at a game called Middle Earth that was created by the Games Workshop. And I think Medivac, you mentioned that to me, which was so true. So I did that one beforehand because it's based on a percentile dice system, a D100. And I said that today we were going to have a look at something that was more complicated than Middle Earth, okay? And this game, I don't think I ever played. I think we might have tried to play it, but failed miserably. But it was a really great game. I really love the concept of it. And it's probably why I'm playing Mithras now, is because of this game. Okay, so I'm just going to take it off my side. Let me just get rid of that so I can pose for the... have to pose for the thumbnail. Okay, and the game that I'm talking about here is a game called Rolemaster. This is the game that I was talking about. Okay, so really nice front cover, box cover. I'm afraid it's a bit tattered. It's been used a lot. And some characters there on the front. And it says here, the complete fantasy role-playing game system in one box. The complete fantasy role-playing game in one box. Okay then, so what did we get in the box? Well, I found this, which is obviously a map for a tavern, which I thought, I don't know whether or not it actually belonged in this box, but it's something that was in there. It's very old school. And then the other thing that I found here, I don't know if you can read that. It's a whole load of sheets of paper that says spares. And you're probably thinking, what on earth are spares? Right, so let me introduce you to Rolemaster. Okay, so Rolemaster had a series of books that are all called something lore. So this is character lore and campaign lore. So this is all about generating characters and things like that. So just as Mithras, sorry, I just dropped a whole load of things. It didn't have classes. Okay, so there was no classes in it. You actually, I'm just trying to find the table. You actually, oh yes, sorry, there were classes in this one. You can just see them down there. So there were classes. So it wasn't like Mithras that had no classes. So the yellow writing, yeah. So the classes, they were called professions, which is the same as Mithras. You could have a fighter, a thief, a rogue, or a warrior monk. Warrior monks were super, everybody loved playing a warrior monk, they really did. Then you could have had a magician, an illusionist, or an alchemist, a cleric, an animist, or a healer, a mentalist, a lay healer, or a seer, a sorcerer, a mystic, or an astrologer, a monk, a ranger, or a bard. So immediately you could see that there was a whole range of character classes that you could be, and each one of them had you would gain certain bonuses for doing certain things. So, you know, like a fighter, you had more chance of maneuvering well in plate mail compared to, say, a rogue or something like that. And there was then degrees of difficulties, which is exactly the same as Mithras. Slightly different. There was routine, easy, light, medium, hard, very hard, wait for it, extremely hard, wait for it, sheer folly. I just love that. Sheer folly. It's a sheer folly. And that's it. That's a very old-fashioned term, isn't it? We don't say, oh, that'll be sheer folly today anymore. And then the last one was absurd. A mentalist sounds interesting. Well, let me describe for you the mentalist. Mentalists are basic spell users of mentalism. There you go. I bet you didn't know that. That's mentalism, who have concentrated on spells which deal with interactions of the mind. Their base spells deal with detection of mental presence, mental communication, mind attack, mind merging, and sense control. Okay, so each one of these, I mean, honestly, the amount of depth that it goes into, it is unbelievable. Honestly, it's absolutely unbelievable. And you just sort of like think, I tell you, you needed like a degree to just sort of like understand what's going on in the book. And it had, this is an NPC table to make up NPCs. There you go. How about that for a table? Can you imagine? You can probably see that it's quite simple and quick and easy to make up an NPC. You know, it wasn't a problem at all. So there was some nice pictures in it, but the things that I would like to focus on, just so you know, these sounds like shadow prints. They have yeah, exactly. The character sheet wasn't that it was quite easy. You needed both of them. You needed a character sheet to do. But okay then, so this is when it got interesting. So that is just character and campaign lore. This is arms and claw law. Okay, we've got spell law to do. Okay, so you might be thinking, oh, well, what's in here? What does this have? Okay, then. So this has an attack table for every single weapon. Okay, so if I go into, so this is that's one attack table and that's the other attack table. Okay, can you see that is for a dagger? That whole table there is for a dagger. And this whole table is for Flashion, which is like a curved sword, I think. I don't know whether or not I pronounced that wrong, right or not. This is for, if I can focus it, is for a hand axe. This is for a main gouge, which I think is like a halberd. So each one, it says scimitar, rapier, broadsword, short sword, armored fist, club, mace, warhammer. Honestly, it just goes on and on and on and on. And then here, this was, remember, was creature lore as well. So this was the attack table for beak pincers. That was beaks and pincers. This is the attack table for bite. Can you see? And of course you had claw. You had claw, but you also had horn and tusk attack. But down below, you also had ram, butt, bash, knockdown, and slug attack table. So honestly, every single one was there. Now, I don't know if you remembered Middle Earth, but it had critical tables. Can you remember it had critical and fumble tables? Well, so does Rolemaster. So this is the critical strike for slash, critical strike for puncture, and it, yeah, exactly, Darth. It just sort of like took a lifetime. I never knew whether or not this was a spelling mistake or not, because this said crush critical, and I'm thinking, was this a typo or not? And then it had large table, etc., etc. Now, one of the wonderful things, I don't know if you remember, I talked about a warrior monk. Well, it actually had martial arts critical strike and martial arts sweeps and throws. So you had a table for fighting with your fist, but you also had a table for grappling and throwing things to the ground. And then here you had the well-known weapon fumble, but can you see each one is different? Each column is different. And in here was one of my favorite criticals, and I should have highlighted it so I found it quicker, but I'm just looking down. It was quite it might have been a spell one. There was one fumble that said you trip over an imaginary deceased turtle and impale yourself or something like that. I used to love it. Or it might be on the maneuver, because there was, every time you did a maneuver, you had you had fumbles as well. So it's a bit like we were saying in Middle Earth. If you try to scale a mountain and you fumbled, then that was a maneuver roll. And let me see if you can find it. These are all I mean, one of these Falls sends you into a coma for 3 years, plus 30 hits, broken spine. I mean, what would you do if your character suddenly did that? I would just sort of like be thinking, what? I'm dead. I'm dead. I'm out of it. So, yes, so this was arms and claw law. So it was basically a percentile dice system. And this, you can tell, just as Darth was saying, you know, you had to have several pages open at the same time. In a party, I might have somebody who was wielding a hammer, somebody that would be wielding a sword, somebody that might have a shield. I might have warrior monks fighting with grappling or striking. So you just spent your whole time flicking through tables. But we're not finished yet. So we've had character law and campaign law. We've had arms and claw law. But of course, we also have spell law. Now, I want to show you, hang on a minute. I want to show you these two books next to each other. Okay, can you see the thickness of that one? So this one seems to be thicker than the other one. Would you agree with that? This one, the one that I'm tapping now, seems thicker than the other one. Okay, so that one was character law, but this one is spell law. Okay, this is spell law. First of all, just look how thick it is. Okay, so this was just for spells. Just for spells. Okay then, so to start off with, there's everything about the different spells. Okay, and it says about the list of spells, and there were sort of like 3 types of spells that you could cast. There was channeling, essence, and then the final one, I forget what it is, mentalism. Okay, so that's what you had. You had channeling, and then you had the Ava spells that was called Essence, the School of Essence, and then the School of Mentalism. So did no one tell the great? Yeah, well, exactly. But to tell you the truth, I loved this system. The reason I loved this system was because it was so complicated, and I just loved, my brain reveled in that complexity. And I was just thinking, wow, do this. At age sort of like 14, 15, 16, it was a God's gift. I would wallow in the game complexity, but we never were able to play it because it would take too long. So let's look at mentalism, the 3rd book of magic. Okay, because this is what we quite enjoyed. So to make life a little bit more complicated, there were open mentalism spells and closed mentalism spells. So certain character classes could have access to open mentalism, but not to closed. Okay, so if you were playing like a mentalist, you would have access to both open and closed. If you were a bard, you might only have access to open mentalist spells and not closed. So these were some spells. Okay then, so let's take into account light. Now, memory of the complicated ones were great, but yeah, exactly. You couldn't. I often found that with Monopoly. Okay, Monopoly really annoyed me because it takes a while to build up the money to have hotels, etc., on it. And I always used to go for the stations, because if you had all the stations, you didn't need to build on them. So they were like an early game starter. So let's take a nice spell in any game. Okay, then. So one of the spells that is used a lot, and hopefully you agree with this, is something to do with creating light. You create light. It's a light source. Now, the majority of systems, including Mithras, have one spell that is called light. Okay, we're in agreement with that. Okay, so Rolemaster has a whole list of spells underneath the target of brilliance. Now, I have to admit that it brings darkness into it as well. So underneath the spell list of brilliance, there are a number of spells that you could cast at various levels of expertise. So project light, blur, light 10-foot radius, self aura, light eruption. I hate to think what that said. Light eruption causes a 10-foot radius sphere of intense light. All within are stunned for 1 round. So like, bang! Off it goes. Shock bolt, darkness 10-foot radius, true aura. As self-aura, so self-aura causes a brilliant aura about the caster, making him appear more powerful and subtracting 5 from any attacks. True aura is exactly the same and subtracts 15 from all attacks. There was light 50-foot radius. 50-foot radius is huge. 50-foot radius is absolutely huge. So if you think, if it's 50-foot radius, then the diameter is 100 foot, isn't it? 100 feet of, and then if it's a sphere, so the volume of a sphere is 4/3 pi r cubed. So you're going to have to cube 50. So 50 times 50 is going to be 250. And then, 2,500. And then you need to times it by 50 again. It would be you would be putting light across the whole globe. Hues, beacon, mass darkness, utter light. Okay. That means that it comes like full daytime. Utter darkness, sunfires, and then the 2 top ones, one was called Hand of Fire. Hand of Fire, yeah. It focuses light as a lens, must be focused initially on a fixed point. After 1 round, it can move at the rate of 1 by 1 and will burn. So it's almost like a moving light around. And this was just open spells. Okay, open spells. So you can see that this nice picture here, this was all about this one here, attack avoidance. Okay, so they literally went on and on and on. Then you had closed mentalist spells. Okay, then. So let's take a really basic spell that a healer would have. Because remember, some of the mentalists are like clerics as well. So this spell list is called self-healing. Okay, self-healing. So I'm thinking something like Cure Light Wounds, I think is a 1d4, 1d6. You cast the spell and you get some spell points back. Okay then, not on this one. So you can clot blood. You could do pain relief. You could do fracture repair. You could do cut repair. You could do muscle and tendon repair, nerve repair, ear and eye repair, vein and artery repair, self-keeping, joining, limb regeneration, organ regeneration. So this probably gives you an idea about the damage that could be done in Rolemaster. I mean, if you're thinking that a game, I mean, Mithras, you can chop off arms. You can literally chop off arms. It's like heal plus, yeah, exactly. But can you imagine being a healer and you took, I don't know, nerve repair, and somebody had an ear chopped off? And I would say, no, sorry, you can't repair that because you don't have ear and eye repair. Or you had ear and eye repair, but you didn't have nerve repair. And I would say, no, it's nerve repair. You can't have that. You can't do it. So instantly there was all these issues. You know, the poor healer just needed to learn so many different spells. And it was just like, sorry, do you have a cut? Is it nerve damage? Have you lost an eye? Whatever it is. So these are still open and closed spells. Okay, so we haven't got on to the mentalist spells yet. So if you remember, we were talking about a mentalist and it could use spells from the open and closed lists. So these are the two lists that we've done. So a lot of the closed lists was things like sense mastery. You had a spell called sly ears, and another one called dark vision, dispel illusion, and things like that. You also had solid manipulation, where you could warm stone, warm metal, warm solid, or transmute it. Just out of interest, if you were thinking, oh, solid manipulation must also count for liquids, no. There was solid manipulation and then there was liquid manipulation. So there was no overlap. There was two different spell lists. And yeah, can you guess what the third one was going to be? If we've had solid manipulation and liquid manipulation, I'll leave it a while because I know there's a lag. What do you think the third one was? There was also things about shifting and things like that. But we have not yet got onto the mentalist spells. So you had all those could choose from. And then you had the mentalist base spells. So these were uniquely for the mentalist. So you had things like mind control, sense control, mind attack, and presence, when you could feel people's presence, mind speech. What if I do liquid manip for a long time? Well, exactly. It was so complicated. Honestly, it was so complicated. It was unbelievable. It really was unbelievable. So things like, okay, if you remember plasma manipulation, I'm really surprised that isn't there. So if you think about mentalism, about mind speech, okay, then there's a list, a spell list called mind speech. So really and truly, what you would assume that you're doing is some kind of telepathy. So you had mentalist tongue. Caster may mentally speak with another spellcaster of the mentalist realm. So you couldn't talk to like mages with it. You could always talk to healers. Caster may mentally speak with one other thinking being. Caster can broadcast thoughts to minds of all within range. One of them, mind speech, the mentalist can send thoughts out up to, wait for it, one 1 mile per level. Okay, so this was a 50 of level spell. So they could actually stand there and send out this mind message up to 50 miles away. 50 miles away. And that was in a radius, you know. True sight, true perception. And honestly, this whole book was basically spell lists. And just so you know this, and I just need to sort of like bring it up to the camera. So this was Mentalist base list, yeah? Here's Seer's base list. And then over this side, if I just move, Lay, Healers and Bards. But you won't believe what's on the opposite, on the next page. Yes, if you were an evil mentalist, you had a whole lot of spell list just for you. These are mystics. The other one was gas manipulation. So it wasn't plasma, you had liquid and gas. Now, what you have to remember is that is just the area of mentalism. So there was the area of channeling. Okay, there was the area of, so healers, nasal repair, minor nerve repair, minor ear repair, minor eye repair, major nerve repair, major ear repair. I mean, it's just sort of like you could actually make up a character that was really good at repairing things, and that was it. Surface ways allows you to heal. So you could heal, you could do frost and burn relief, stun relief, regeneration, frost and burn relief 2, awakening, heal, stun relief, I mean, honestly, it just went on and on forever. On and on forever. And so, I mean, imagine it that you have a healer in your party and you take some damage and you sort of like look to the healer and say, sorry, could you heal me? And they say, no, sorry, I can only repair ear damage. You know, if you lost an ear, I'm your man. If you haven't lost an ear, I'm sorry, just go somewhere else. So this was the wonderful realm of spells. But there was, I don't know if you remember, that all the weapons had different attack tables. Well, all the attacking spells had different attack tables. So this is Shock Bolt. And then on the next page, you have Water Bolt and Ice Bolt. And these were all different. Fire Bolt, Lightning Bolt, Cold Bolt. I mean, come off it. This was a cold ball attack table. You had ice and a cold. Did you ever complete a game? No. I never ever did. Mainly because I think I loved the system a lot. I really loved the system. But I think you must remember when I was growing up, the only person that I could play games like this with was Chugga-Wugga. You know, and I'm not saying that it was too complicated for Chugga-Wugga. What I'm saying is that it just, you know, you had, in those days, we used to have dungeon parties. So Chugga-Wugga would have 6 characters and he would play all 6 of them down a dungeon and I would GM the dungeon. And we were playing like that. You used to have what you called a stable of characters. It wasn't just one. You know, you had 5 or 6 and that was it. And you might now be able to guess what the spares were, because obviously I had gone somewhere and photocopied off a whole load of tables. So I had spares of them all. So all the attack tables, I actually had spells. So, hang on, let me just pop it all back together again. So I hope, back at the beginning, this is character lore. I hope you can see how Middle Earth actually came from Rolemaster. So Rolemaster was the more complicated game, and they simplified it for Middle Earth, but used the same system. I am not too sure whether or not you can even buy Rolemaster anymore. Okay, I'm not too sure whether or not you can buy it, whether or not it's still out there, or whether or not anybody's playing it. And I'm wondering, Darth, if they did start playing it, they're probably still on the first combat, but started 10 years ago. They're probably still deciding what spells to go. So Rolemaster is a classic example of the fact that you can get too involved in games, and they can get too complicated. It's someone who's familiar with five. It's wild to imagine Middle Earth was. Yeah, exactly. And you have to remember, Matt, that 5e was a simplified version of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. Okay, so it was, this was a lot more complicated, than 5e. And even in the sense that this was called our PHB. All the books when we were growing up had sort of like abbreviations. So this was PHB. And so we would say to each other, where's that rule? Somebody would say, it's in the PHP, page 4. Also like Player's Handbook. And this book, I think now in 5e, any race can be any class. I think that's right. In Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, that was not correct. If you wanted to be an illusionist, you could only be a human or a gnome. And those were the only two options. And if you wanted to be a paladin or a monk, like I said in the chat, you had to be human. You literally had to be human. The other thing that it was really based on was the THACO system. Like I mentioned the other day, mages found it more difficult to hit things than fighters. Fighters had it easier. And I think I'm right in 5e that everything needs the same amount of experience points to go up a level. So you all need the same amount of experience points. In Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, it wasn't. So thieves advanced quicker than anybody else. Then it was, I think, fighters and clerics. And mages, so a fighter needed I think a thief needed 1,500 experience points to get to level 2. A mage, a wizard, needed 2,000. So needed 500 more experience points. So it was interesting that some classes really overtook other classes really quickly. And I think there was things that I really liked. I think rogues in 5e can backstab. But backstabbing in D&D, AD&D first edition, you had a multiplier. So if you successfully backstabbed, you did double damage, triple damage, damage times 5 and things like that. And there was, I don't think this class exists anymore, but there was a class called the Assassin. And the Assassin, when you backstabbed, had a percentage chance of actually killing the person outright. So it's almost like at first level you had a 10% chance of doing it. So somebody could go up behind somebody, slip a knife into them, and actually assassinate them with 10%. Watching second, and they talked about the rogues being less powerful. But yeah, exactly. But you could have an assassin that went up to a dragon, backstabbed it, and there was a 10% chance that it would just kill it. You know, and that would be the end of the adventure. I loved it. My favourite times were with Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. And I think my role-playing's moved on a lot now. And now I'm more interested in the narrative. I find, and we were talking about this, Matt, in the channel, I have to sort of like relax into 5e. I know that, you know, I'm going to send 5,500 mobs at you, and the first person's going to do a hit and kill 18 of them, or something like that. I feel D&D 5th edition is more about power rather than anything else. I did watch a game once, and they don't play anymore, and the person rolled a d20 and got a 2. Okay, 2 out of 20. And it came up as a 2, and then they said 17. And they had plus 15 on their attack roll. I'm just thinking, what? Plus 15 on an attack roll? I mean, that is ginormous. That is unbelievable. And I was so gobsmacked by that. Anyway, our time is up, people. I hope you enjoyed that that move into Rolemaster. Now, just to tempt you a little bit, next time we are going to enter a game that you rode around on motorbikes, and you had a gun that had high explosives, incendiary, and ricochet bullets in. See if you can guess what we'll be talking about next. But it was a classic game, and I have to say, the only one of these games that I actually played in. I actually played this game. So it's a game when everybody rides around on motorbikes, and they have guns that you can switch your ammunition, and you have high explosive, incendiary, armor piercing, and ricochet. So yeah, see if you can guess what that is, and come back next Monday at 7 o'clock when we'll be having a look at that. Yeah, and I hope you enjoy it. And thank you to everybody who's come along tonight and listen in. Or if you have not, if you're listening to this on the recording, then do remember I'm live at, it's close, Matt, GTA is close. I'm live every Monday night, 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock on this channel. So if you'd like to come in live, then do pop along and see me. It'd be lovely to answer your question. And I thought it was really brilliant this morning that I was editing videos and people were coming in asking me questions about Mithras and the rule system, and I really enjoyed it. I suddenly started to think, wow, I know a lot about this game. It's interesting that if you type in Mithras rules into Google, I come up, and that's it. Matt was saying this morning, there's no good me trying to find an expert on Mithras on the internet because the only person that's out there is me. And that's why we have a really great Discord and Tapper Talk forums as well. Anyway, I'm going to head off now. Thank you for listening to my ramblings. I hope you enjoyed Rolemaster. And yeah, come back next week when we have a look at the next role-playing game from my box sets. Okay, until next time, look after yourselves, everybody. Stay safe, stay healthy, but most importantly, buy a mug and stay positive. I'll see you all later. Bye. I told it. It is true. It's true. did you actually go and check? It's literally unbelievable. I've got the monopoly. Okay, see you all later, people. Bye.